So we need to talk about Ethereum. Is this a good investment? Is this something that you want to put your hard-earned money into? How do I currently invest? And are you too late to invest into Ethereum? But before we do that, we need to really understand what the value of ETH might be, which is the actual currency of the Ethereum network, and how really we can try and understand the value of the Ethereum network in order to figure out if it's a good investment. Created in 2014 by Vitalik Buterin and Gavin Wood, Ethereum is a decentralized open source blockchain. It's very similar to Bitcoin indeed, with a few major differences. Let me try and explain Ethereum by using a really interesting analogy. I want you to picture the motorway network. Highways, roads, whatever you call it in your country. Imagine the roads that connect cities together, the motorways, freeways and highways that allow you to move from one city to another. Huge, wide, long sections of tarmac that stretch for miles on end. This is the first layer of our network that allows everything on top to function. So on top of this layer, we get cars carrying people, trucks carrying food, tankers transporting fuel, if you're lucky, and everything in between. Maybe even Batman in a Lambo. Now, without the road, of course, there can be no cars. There can be no trucks, no deliveries, nobody gets to work, nobody gets to school. So therefore, the road network, as that first layer, is extremely valuable, and certainly a lot more valuable than just the concrete and the tarmac that it's made out of. So as you might have guessed by the story, Ethereum is almost like the road network, in that it's that first layer and the platform that all other services can be built on top of. And the way Ethereum gets its value and the way ETH as the currency gets its value is that everyone wants to get access and use those roads. So of course, in the roads example, they pay toll charges, they pay road tax in order to use and access that network. So just like you might pay your government the road tax, as we've just mentioned, ETH, the currency of the Ethereum network, is what is rewarded to the miners, who are, I guess, are almost like the highway maintenance crew of the network, and they are rewarded for allowing you to use that network. The only real major difference is, of course, that there's no one in high-vis jackets and there's no 50-mile-an-hour road signs to really annoy you when it's 2 in the morning and you want to get home. As a cryptocurrency and as a network, the Ethereum project is second only to the monster that is Bitcoin, and its current value sits around $420 billion, which, if we try and imagine it in terms of company size, this puts it actually larger than household names like Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, and even Bank of America. So let's say if we were to invest in companies like Johnson & Johnson and Walmart, and we'd go through their balance sheet, we'd look at the revenue, we'd look at the profit. Let's try and look at Ethereum now and work out, is this a good investment today? Or have we missed the boat? Except it's slightly different with Ethereum because it's not really the same as a company. There is no revenue, there is no balance sheet, but there is still some utility there, and there are some numbers which we can play around with to try and work out what the future value of this currency and of ETH on the Ethereum network might end up being. So let's run through some pros and cons to figure out if this is something we might want to invest in, something that you might want to invest in. But please do remember, I'm not a financial professional advisor, and this is certainly not financial advice. So please do all of your own research, and I'm pretty sure a financial advisor couldn't even recommend buying Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency like Ethereum anyway. So why would this be a good investment? Well, the first thing we need to look at is consider the rate of the adoption of how many people want to use the Ethereum network and how many people are using cryptocurrency generally at the moment. Did you know that the adoption of cryptocurrency around the world is currently beating the adoption speed of the internet? And it's estimated that in the next 4 years, Bitcoin would have 4 billion users. And we've not even started thinking about Ethereum yet. And if we were to compare the likes of the Ethereum network with the likes of the internet, we know how the internet turned out and how it spawned some of the world's largest companies today in a very, very short period of time. Companies like Google, Netflix and Amazon all rely on the internet to provide their services, and of course that's how they got their massive market cap today. Now, knowing what you know today about the internet, if someone took you back in time and said, do you want to invest in these different companies and do you want to invest in the internet? And I'm sure you would have said, yes, sure, get me in there. But rather than giving up all of your money, of course, we want to be a little bit more selective because we all know what happened in the dot-com bubble. Pets.com, anyone? What happened to that company? Even with that comparison to the dot-com bubble, the important factor is that the network, the underlying layer, the layer of the internet, of course, has extreme value, regardless of whether all the companies survived or not. With that being said, you get the point. The value of the internet, of course, is extremely valuable. So therefore, the underlying network layer that is the internet that allows services to go on top of it, just like Ethereum allows services to go on top of it, means that in theory, the value in the network and the value of the currency powering that network could be pretty huge. Firstly though, let's just address pure supply and demand. Ultimately, this is the key thing which is currently driving the price up. as more and more people want to get hold of ETH and more people want to use the Ethereum network. Just like any commodity, more people want something than is available to sell. Of course, that just drives the price up, just like buying anything else on the market, any other commodity, any other stock that you want. Just go back earlier to the imaginary motorway network that we spoke about earlier. The more people that use the roads, the more people that use the toll roads, the more people that use the roads generally and pay car tax, we're going to get a bigger and bigger pot, and the value of that network is going to increase. And in the digital world, there's loads and loads of use cases coming out for the Ethereum network. So for example, the huge boom in NFTs, those non-fungible tokens, people trading and selling digital assets on the blockchain, the entire decentralized finance community trying to figure out on how they connect borrowers and lenders directly to each other without a centralized bank or a centralized organization. These are all massive use cases, and developers are flocking to this network to develop decentralized apps, or dApps as they're sometimes called, to create value on top of the network. And the benefits of the platform really come from the fact that it is a decentralized network. If we think about this in contrast from platforms which are centralized, like Facebook, for example, or maybe even Netflix, although there are hundreds of servers all spread around the world, organizations like Facebook have a central control and manage those servers centrally, versus decentralized platforms like Bitcoin and Ethereum all operate independently, but they all operate on the same network in an open source fashion, and there's no central computer or central server with ultimate control. Everyone works independently and everyone's in control or not in control at the same time. And next, another benefit to the Ethereum network is that transaction speeds are a lot faster, especially when we consider it with the likes of Bitcoin, which one of the initial problems and why Ethereum was created was because Bitcoin is much slower to create a transaction. And if you're trying to pay with something with Bitcoin in a shop, and you were sat there, you'd have to wait for about 30 minutes before the transaction would go through, whereas Ethereum could do this a lot quicker, and every time the network upgrades, they're trying to make that speed quicker and quicker too. Think of at the moment the industries that it could disrupt. If you try and compare it to the likes of Visa and MasterCard, who have developed those payment systems around the world which can authenticate extremely quickly once you tap that payment card or that Apple Pay on that payer, when you compare that to what Ethereum could potentially do, or decentralized payment systems, there's a huge amount of opportunity to disrupt. And finally, on my list of pros, there are some measures out there and some potential indicators suggesting that Ethereum or Ether could have a flippening event and actually end up beating Bitcoin at its current market value. Now, if you haven't heard of the flippening before, it is a major event which potentially could happen where Ethereum takes over #1 spot and beats out Bitcoin for market cap. Still doesn't mean Bitcoin would be going away, but it would mean the potential value of the Ethereum network would increase. Now, there's loads of information on this event and dedicated websites, and I'll put this one on screen now. If you go to Blockchain Center, you can even go to their flippening page and see if this actually is something that might happen anytime soon, as Ethereum slowly eats into Bitcoin's dominance. And you will actually see by looking at metrics like transaction count and total transaction fees that Ethereum is already way ahead of Bitcoin, because of course it's being moved around in billions and billions of dollars every single day, whereas Bitcoin is more of a store of value, so people are holding it for much longer terms. But anyway, keep a close eye on that one, because that could be very, very interesting over the next few years. If there were to be a flippening, the value of this thing could go through the roof. Or to the moon, whatever you want to say. It's a rocket. So that all sounds great, but what are the risks? Well, firstly, my opinions, I look at Ethereum, I look at Ether, very much like I'd look at a new speculative company which hasn't made a profit yet, maybe in an early funding round. It could do very well, but of course they're not making any money just yet. And like all early stage companies, maybe even ones that have just floated on the stock market, they can be incredibly volatile, especially the smaller ones. Cryptocurrencies and Ethereum, of course, have an extreme level of volatility when you compare it to the stock market. You're going to see double-digit losses and gains across a single week and crazy swings in a day. So if you can't take the swings of a speculative company on the stock market, then currencies like Ether are not going to be for you. Secondly, one of the most important things is the lack of regulation in this space, of course, and that means that ultimately that your money is not protected. In the same way as in the US, you've got the SEC who look after your money, and the same way here in the UK, you have the FCA who look after your money and guarantee your deposits when they're held in banks or when they're held with your trading broker up to the value of £85,000 here in the UK. Cryptocurrency is not quite the same. There are absolutely no guarantees that you'll get anything back. If you were to lose your money, if someone steals it, nobody cares. Although I personally doubt that cryptocurrency is going to be completely banned like it has in China, I do see regulation as an inevitable thing, and I do see it actually as a positive thing eventually. But in the short term, we've got no idea really what it might do. It may end up knocking entire cryptocurrencies down to zero, and it will swing things and shake things up a hell of a lot. Just to reiterate again, there's no money back schemes, nothing is 100% safe, things are completely liable to be hacked, and of course I would do everything I could to spread around my risks and diversify my portfolio as much as possible, having it across multiple exchanges, offline hardware wallets, or even software wallets on my computer, but I wouldn't have all my eggs in one basket. If you're going to use exchanges, which you will need to in order to buy cryptocurrency, make sure you use big trusted names. The names I use are people like BlockFi, Nexo, Crypto.com, and I've used Coinbase before. All the links are in the description below. Thanks to everyone who has used my links previously to buy themselves some cryptocurrency. If you do use the link, I get some cryptocurrency, you get some cryptocurrency, and you support the channel. So good luck, do all your own research and use the links in the description below. Thirdly, as I mentioned earlier about the dot-com bubble, nobody knows in this area what's going to happen and which cryptocurrencies are going to end up on top. So putting our bets on Ethereum could end up being a really bad bet. Who knows? Again, if we compare it back to the dot-com bubble, there are tens and hundreds of different companies who got billions of pounds worth of funding when everyone's excited and thought no company could lose with .com in their name. But of course, we know it ended up pretty horribly, and only really a few companies survived, like those big ones like Apple and Amazon, for example, but lots of others fell down to the wayside, as I mentioned earlier, pets.com. If you use the Wayback Machine, you can actually go on pets.com website. Pretty crazy. Finally, you can almost guarantee in the next 5 to 10 years that there won't be thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies. There'll probably just be a handful with a huge amount of value, and maybe even a couple of dozen other ones doing some other interesting side projects. But making sure that you've picked the winners is going to be the really difficult one, exactly the same way as lots of companies who've fallen outside of the S&P 500 or even the FTSE 100 here in the UK. Some die, some survive. Which ones are going to be? It's anyone's bet. So you've made your mind up maybe and you decided you want to invest in Ethereum. So what's the best way to do it, and how do I currently do that, and what do I hold at the moment? Like any other asset, if you want to buy some Ether, you will need to do that on some kind of exchange in the exact same way that you would do that when buying any other stocks. So you're going to need to go to your favorite crypto exchange. Now there are already a ton out there, and of course you can sort them all and Google to your heart's content about which one's the biggest are and which one's the safest are. I'll tell you the ones I'm using like I did mention earlier, and you can make your own mind up, and you feel free if you want to use some of my links in the description below too. But my preferred routes to buy crypto in the UK would be places like Nexo, or I have used Crypto.com, I've used Coinbase before, and then I hold my assets across both BlockFi and Nexo at the moment, because I actually like to try and get some interest on my cryptocurrency too. I'm very happy kind of taking that risk, knowing that if those platforms get hacked, that's all gone. Now, personally, I'm happy with those risks, but of course you might have a different risk profile, but everyone is unique, and personal finance is exactly that. It's personal. So make sure you just look after yourself, understand the risks. If you want to take your crypto offline, put it on a little hardware token or whatever, that's completely up to you. I choose to keep mine on a platform to earn interest. So on Nexo, I earn interest daily, and on BlockFi, I get that daily, which is paid monthly. And that's a really nice little side income to help bolster my crypto holdings. Now, to give you an idea of my current holdings, as I said I would, and be completely transparent, approximately, I was just checking a few minutes ago, my current total value of cryptocurrency stands around $40,000, of which the majority is Ethereum, several $1,000s worth of Bitcoin, and a couple of $1,000s worth of Nexo token too. So I am definitely very, very biased indeed. So you should make sure you do all of your own research. I am incredibly bullish on Ethereum, and I do hope it succeeds over the next few years. And I can absolutely see this asset 10x over that 5 to 10 year period if we keep finding new use cases and the user base continues to grow as it has been over the last few years. But as a warning, cryptocurrency will only ever be a part of a well-diversified portfolio, in my opinion, and will only ever have a small part in my portfolio. And although that part at the moment may be quite significant depending on your risk profile, as a relatively young person, I'm happy where it stands at the moment, and of course, happy to take that risk. If everything were to go to zero, that's absolutely fine. I've got the time to kind of build back up again, but I'm happy taking that risk in the same way as people like to invest in stocks like Tattooed Chef and Palantir and all those others. Crypto is kind of my little bit on the side. And don't forget, of course, there's nothing stopping you just dollar cost averaging into cryptocurrency. There is no pressure and no rush just to YOLO all your money in. You may as well just put it in as you can. That's kind of how I've done investing in my philosophy. A little bit of money saved on the side. I'll slowly drip feed it into cryptocurrency. And hopefully in the next 10, 20 years, we'll have a nice little pot and maybe we can just buy a dividend portfolio and get some income from that. But either way, stay safe out there and let me know what you do in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. If you found the video useful or interesting, drop me a big fat like. Make sure you subscribe for many, many more videos as usual, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy investing.